Hi, this is Tucker, and this is your high frequency words for the new SAT list number 4. Our first word is abysmal, and this is an adjective, and it describes something that is extremely bad. So, emphasis on bad. And I think back to when I was in college and going over to friends' apartments and just seeing their kitchens, and the kitchens were abysmal. They were cluttered and dirty, unwashed dishes everywhere. It was disgusting. Clearly, people who were on their own for the first time and did not know how to clean. It was abysmal. The next word is benevolent. This is also a describing word. It's an adjective and it means kind or generous. So when I think of somebody who's really benevolent, like as a small child, you might think of like a Santa Claus, or as an older person, you might think of somebody who donates to charity, but it's really that sense of giving and being generous. So somebody who's benevolent might give a gift for no reason, whether that's an actual gift or some kind of an intangible gift. The third word is capitalize, and this is a verb, and it means to use something to your advantage. And when I think about the word capitalize, I often think about some inherent quality that you have that you're able to make the most of in your life. So, for example, my daughter plays soccer and she is very fast. Her speed is her like secret weapon, and so she capitalizes on her speed in a game and uses it to her advantage, where she gets the ball and she's up against people and she uses her speed and she's able to get out in front. It's her way of like really performing and doing well. It's that thing she has that not everybody has, so she's able to capitalize on it. Deficient describes, it's an adjective, it describes something where there's like not enough of it, or there's too small an amount, or not enough in terms of a degree. So there might be deficient heating in a house and you're cold all the time. You have to wear a sweater and socks and maybe like a little beanie because you're really cold. Or for me personally, there is almost always a deficient amount of coffee when I'm staying in a hotel room. So they give you like 2 little pods of coffee. It is a deficient amount of coffee for me to start my day. I definitely need more coffee than those 2 tiny cups. The next word is eloquent, and this describes someone who has kind of like a refined, they're refined, or they have kind of a refined way of expressing themselves in terms of their communication skills. Like the way they speak and they write is very expressive, refined, kind of like fancy. I almost think of like somebody who is able to use really fancy words to describe how they feel, or, in the way that they talk. And so, for example, if you love TED Talks, I love TED Talks, watching somebody who gives a really powerful TED Talk, oftentimes it's powerful because they're so eloquent. The way that they describe things is really vivid and powerful, and they use just the right words to express themselves. Impartiality, this is a noun, and it's the equal and objective treatment of kind of 2 opposing views or 2 opposing sides. So, for example, parents are supposed to have kind of like this air of impartiality, right? They have 2 kids, the kids are fighting, you're not supposed to take sides. Similarly, when you're watching a sports game or a sports event or a game of some kind, the umpire is supposed to be impartial or have an air of impartiality, where they're not favoring one side over the other. They're not making calls for one team versus the other. They're trying to treat both teams equally. The next word is malleable, and something that is described as malleable, so this is an adjective, is capable of being molded or changed in some way. So I think of things like Play-Doh and clay, where if you get clay wet and you put it on that spinning board, like this picture, you can create a vase. You can shape it into a vase. You can mold it in that way. The next word is obsolete, and something that is obsolete or described as obsolete, because this is an adjective as well, is really no longer used, or it's so rarely used that it's uncommon. Like you would see it and think, oh, I don't really see those anymore. So for example, cassette tapes. Like cassette tapes are almost entirely obsolete. Like where you would find a cassette tape except at a garage sale, and you'd have to have like a cassette player, which is really rare now to even be able to play one of these cassette tapes. I mean, VHS tapes are also becoming obsolete, obviously. So a lot of times when we think about older technologies that we don't use anymore, we would describe them as obsolete. They're super rare, really uncommon. Peculiar. This is a describing word as well. It's an adjective, and it describes anything that's kind of strange or bizarre. And sometimes peculiar has like a little bit of a negative connotation, but not always. It could just be kind of something that's like off the beaten track, or, just like a little different from the norm. So, for example, this is a really peculiar type of fruit. I have seen this fruit in the occasional supermarket, like the Oliver's, Whole Foods. I think it's called a Buddhist hand. It's some kind of a citrus fruit, but it's really uncommon. It's really peculiar. You're not going to see it every single day. And our last word is quirk. And a quirk is a noun, and it's a strange habit. And I was trying to think of all of the quirks that my husband points out about me, which he points them out all of the time. And one of the strange quirks that I have, or one of the strange habits that I have, is I am an obsessive flosser. I floss every single day. And I love the dentist. Like, I literally get excited to go get my teeth cleaned at the dentist, and I recognize that this is unusual. This is strange. Not everybody feels this way about the dentist, but for some reason I do.